Coming straight out of Ecamm. This is a jam for the Ecamm fam. Ecamm fam is the name of the jam. This is a jam for the Ecamm fam. Ecamm fam is the name of the jam. This is a jam for the Ecamm fam. This is a jam for the Ecamm fam. This is a jam for the Ecamm fam. Ecamm fam is the name of the jam.
Wait, stop the music! Hold it! Hold it! Stop the music!
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen,
can I please have your attention?
Now showtime. Are you ready? Are you ready for start time?
let's find out. Ready, let's go.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to Let's Learn Ecamm Live. It's an honor to be here today. I'm actually filling in for Doc, as he is in Florida, sunning himself at Podfest. But you'll be pleased to know that he'll be back next week and the normal service will be resumed. But in the meantime, I'll be taking you through the Ecamm Live demo session, which is typically what we do each week at this time, and show you some of the features and workflows to get you all started if you are new to Ecamm. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Neil Farmond. I am a moderator within the Ecamm team, and you've probably seen me answer a couple of questions here and there on the Ecamm Facebook group. So let's take a look first off at the chat, see who's joined us. We have 11 people already. Wow. Let's just take a look. Hey, Aubrey, how's it going? Andy as well. We have a lot of people in here. Look at this. Hey, Lisa. Wow, what a great bunch of people. Thank you so much for joining today. So, before we go into all this, let's take a look. Let me just switch those down there. Okay, let's go into live demo mode. Hopefully that is all kicking in. All right, so what I wanted to go through today is setting up Ecamm Live. If you're new to it, then we'll go through a few of the preferences, scenes, overlays, cameras, and things like that. So what I like to do first of all, though, is when I first set up my Ecamm Live, I tend to go into the preferences and set up a few things. So you can go to preferences via here, the main menu, and go into preferences, or you can go into command, comma, and that'll bring up the preferences on your Ecamm Live. So I get asked a couple of questions around setting this up and adding these preferences. And one of the things that catches people out a lot is in the video settings. So I tend to set my default video source to blank. And what that means is when you create a new scene, you don't get your camera overlay being picked as your first overlay, and then it gets a bit confusing. So it's defaulted normally to camera, and I will set that to blank, which is something that is useful. And then in the general settings, I tend to disable the show camera switcher in main window, because I tend to like having my camera switcher in one of the main window panes. The other thing is worth looking at in the preferences is your stream settings. So this, I can't change mine now, obviously, because I'm live, but the stream size and stream shape and frame rate is what your audience is going to see and how you actually send that to YouTube. So here we've got really high quality at the moment, and the frame rate is 16:9, and I normally stream in 24 frames per second. So as a setup for your Ecamm defaults, I tend to go into the preferences first of all and change a few things before I start going live. So let's take a look at the Ecamm layout. Now, your Ecamm layout is going to look different than mine. I tend to not have all these windows around. You can bring all your windows from the main window pane here. This, for those of you that are new to Ecamm, is the main window. This is where all the magic happens. This is where you're going to set up all your overlays. This is where you're going to have all your controls. And these controls around the window you can see here can be easily removed and hidden by hitting the Command tilde button. And that means that the overlay window, or the main window, then makes things a little bit easier to see, and it's not as cluttered. One of the other questions we get a lot is, what is the difference between scenes and overlays? So there's two panes here within the setup. One is scenes and one is overlays. Now, if you think of a scene as a page in a PowerPoint presentation or keynote, or a scene in a movie, this is where you're going to switch between the different scenes, and these scenes can contain different graphical elements, overlays, text, and things like that. Now, I've only got a few scenes set up here. I've got the main default countdown scene that you saw at the beginning of the show. I've got another camera, which is here, which is the desk camera. I also have a be right back in case anything goes wrong, and then finally an end scene. So these are the scenes that you're going to be taking your audience through your Ecamm production. So as you go live, you'll switch between these different scenes to show different elements, whether it be a countdown, an image overlay, a screen share, text, or other guests. And we'll get to how we create all these things in a moment. And just a bit of housekeeping as well. If you do want to ask a question, I know Paul's probably put this in already, but if you put a Q in front of your question, or Q colon, it helps me find it here when I'm going through searching through the comments and things like that. So if you've got any questions about Ecamm and how to set things up, feel free, and I'll stop and pause as we go on today with the demo and see if there's any questions and stuff like that. Yes, thanks, Paul. If you don't put a Q in front of it, it's just a comment. All right, so let's set up one scene, and let's start from scratch. So let's create a new scene by hitting the plus button down here, is where we create a new scene. Let's hit plus. And if you remember the source setting that I just changed in preferences, if this was set to camera, then it would basically pick the first camera that you have set up in your system. So we don't want that. I always start with a blank scene, which is cool. And then we can start to add our various graphics and overlays. So there's a bunch of different overlays that you can add to your scene. We're going to start off first with a camera, and that's with the button down here, which is the new camera overlay. So we click on camera. Let's click on that. Oops, let's get rid of the duplicate one. So it's going to pick whatever camera is set up in your list. I'll show you where that camera setup is in a second. So if you go over and highlight the little pen tool here, you can pick basically which camera that you want. So I'm going to pick camera A, which is my main camera. Now you might think, well, what is camera A and what's that got to do with? Well, you can set up all your cameras and map them to specific letters within Ecamm Live, which makes it much easier for picking the specific cameras to put into your scene, especially if you have multiple cameras like I have. So I'll show you how to set that up in a second. So first of all, when you've set up your first camera overlay, you can move it around here in your scene. You can make it big, you can make it small, and I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse to do that. So I'm just going to make my camera this size. Now you can change the aspect ratio of any camera overlay that you add within your scene, and you hit the pen tool, and you can see the shape determines the actual size or the aspect ratio of that camera overlay. If you set it to custom, you can grab any one of the corners and move it around, so you can change the size of that camera overlay to whatever you want. So I'm just going to make it this size for now, and make it like that. Ecamm Live allows you to have lots of flexibility as well when you're creating these cameras. So I'm just going to put a little border around it. I'll have this color like this. I'll pick my colors here. I'll take that nice purple color. I'll make the border maybe 4 points. And you can also make it rounded corners if you want anything like that. I'll just leave it like that for now. All right. So that is me. So this would be where you start building out your scene. So the main camera could be just you, as you're the main focus of the scene. So I will make it like this for now. And as you can see, as I'm moving the camera overlay around the scene, it's going to snap into position. You have snap points within Ecamm. So you have the vertical and horizontal snap points to make everything look perfectly neat and tidy. Now, once that's been set, you can then add additional overlays and things like that to this scene. Let me just show you the camera switcher and how I get these different cameras mapped to these different letters. You go to the window menu up here and we'll go to camera switcher. Now, everything that is connected to my Mac is seen in here. You can add your iPad, you can add your iPhone, you can add multiple cameras. Now, depending on how you connect these up to your Mac, I have a quad HDMI card that takes in all the HDMI feeds of my cameras. I've only got 2 physically plugged in now, but everything that is connected to your Mac as a video source would actually appear here. And these are all the sources. Now, you'll notice that there is another little button, which is called AB. If you click on here, what that will allow me to do is now map the various cameras that I've got connected to my Mac to a letter. And that means that if you've got cam links that aren't persistent in terms of were they, when you connect your camera, when you go back into Ecamm, or if you've restarted Ecamm, then your camera A, for example, may not be the same camera that you've connected up. And that's just the way that USB works within the Mac. So this is a great way of mapping those cam links to a particular letter, which makes it easier to know which is your main camera. So for me, my main camera is on this particular port here, and I always map that to camera A, and my desk camera that I've got here is mapped to camera G. So when I go into my camera overlay, I can just pick now the letters. So camera A is my main one, and camera G will be the desk camera, as we've just seen. So it's a great way of mapping cameras and making it easier so you don't get confused, especially when using cam links or other capture cards in your system. So that is the camera switcher. Also within the camera switcher, you've got the ability to add different effects to your cameras, and we'll come on to camera effects and things in a moment. But the camera switcher is super powerful, and I like to have it here in this sort of main window so I can change and manipulate these cameras as necessary. All right, so that's the camera switcher. Let's get rid of that. What if you wanted to put a background in the scene, because it's quite boring at the moment with it just being dark? Well, there's a couple of things that you can do within overlays. Down here at the bottom, if I just zoom in a little bit, you have obviously the camera overlay that we've just looked at, but you've also got things like image overlays, you've got animated overlays, screen shares, text, dynamic text and static text overlays. You've also got the shape overlay, countdown timer, web widgets, and so on. So if you don't have a background, but you want to make things look a little bit nicer within the scene, I'm just going to add a shape overlay. Now, you'll notice as soon as I add this shape overlay, it takes over the full screen. In your overlays, they are layered like you would see in the likes of Photoshop or other applications. And the way that you can change the way the layering works is just by clicking and dragging this rectangle, in this particular case, under the camera. So the camera is on top, that's what you see on top, and then underneath is the rectangle shape. Now you'll notice that this shape has got some motion, it's got some color, and it looks quite nice. And we're doing that because Ecamm has the ability to do different fill overlays, fill setups within these specific overlays. So you can have nothing, you can have a solid single color, you can have a gradient, and you can change the gradient by clicking whichever color you want. I've got orange here and purple. And then the gradient radius is going to be changed by this little wheel as I'm moving it around here. And then the other fill is motion, which I like. So it's going to cycle through a nice sort of radial of the two colors that you are basically setting up here. So that gives a nice sort of motion background to your scene. And yeah, you can also add other things as well, which we will do in a second. So that's a really quick and easy way of getting some color and flair into your scene. What I tend to do is once I've got the scene set up how I want, it's always good practice to make sure these scenes are locked. Specifically the overlays, sorry. I'll tell you why you don't want the scenes in some cases to be locked in a minute. But I tend to lock the camera and I lock the rectangle, and that means that then I can't accidentally move anything, which I frequently do if I hit the mouse button. Because obviously if it's not unlocked, then obviously I can make this go crazy here by just moving my mouse button, and nobody wants to see that. So we've got the camera overlay set up and we've got the motion background. But now if you wanted to add a little bit of text, we can do that by adding a text overlay. So let me just hit the text overlay button here. And it's all simple stuff. So I'm going to first of all add my name like this. All right. And then if I hit the option return, I'll just say what I am. I don't know, video person. Let's leave it at that. And then filling in for doc. All right, so you've got lots of options here in your text overlays. At the moment, these are all center justified. So let me just highlight the whole text and move it to the left. The text can be changed colors and fonts. So you can change individual lines of text by changing the colors and the fonts. So obviously I'll keep that to around 24. And then I'll make this much smaller, probably do it to 12 like that. And then I will change the color by highlighting the text, clicking the text color, and I'll make it a dark color. Let's put it like that. And I'll make my name white. And then I'll add that to this here. Oh, and that is so small. I can't see it. I need bigger glasses. Let's make that bigger. Goodness me. What was I thinking? All right. Let's make it like that for now. All right. So this text overlay, you can place anywhere you want. And we'll put this with a bit of a background. So we'll edit the text. We'll edit the background. And we'll make the background a solid color. We'll make it dark. And what you can do is you can change the opacity here of your background. So it's within the colors setup. You can actually change the opacity and make it a little bit more transparent. We'll hit save. And then I will change my text. Don't ask me to design anything, by the way, because, you can clearly see I don't have an artistic bone in my body, but that's all right. We'll make it, I don't know, let's make it pink. Oh yeah, doesn't that look super nice? So I don't want any rounded corners in there, so I'm going to change the corner radius. I'm not going to have any border on there, and I'll just put that like that. Now you can change the size of this. So as I'm changing the size of the text overlay, it is also changing the size of the text. And you can change the way that that operates. So dynamic is going to change the size of the text based on the box. But if you make it the text box to shrink, what that means is that the text inside that box will try and remain the same size, and it's not going to get that cropping effect. So I will keep it like this for now. You can also change the text margin. So as I'm moving the text margin slider, it's going to put a more larger margin around the text itself. So we just change it around like that. All right. Now, if we wanted to add a little graphic to this and make it look even more crazy, we can do so. And I will just go to my demo assets here, and I will bring up some images. A good tip that Doc always tells you to do is when you are creating all your assets, whether you have videos, music, images, and so on, it's always good to have a folder structure so you know where everything is. Because obviously when it comes to building up your scenes and creating your overlays and adding various elements, it's always good to have a folder structure to keep all this material in, because if you don't, it could all get horrible and messy. So let's get some images. I'm going to pick this one, which is a crazy looking graphic image of me. Don't you just love it? I'm just going to put that there like that, or you could put it here. Let's just put it there, and we move it around by moving my arrows like this. All right. Now, one other good practice is, as you can see at the moment, all these overlays are in or separated. They don't actually are containerized, and they all move individually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder for my overlays and put them all in. And the folder option is down here at the bottom. So we're just going to add a new folder or a group, and we're going to group all these elements together. So I'm just going to create this as the lower third. If I could spell. So in the lower thirds group, I'm going to add the graphic that I've just added. And I'm just going to add my text like that. Now, if you remember, I'm going to put that there. The reason why it's behind is because this lower third group is below the camera. So I need to move that around a second. I'll just move this group above the camera so it sits on top. Remember, these overlays are sort of persistent with regards to where they sit in the hierarchy. So you've got to make sure that the one that you want to see at the top is at the top within your overlays. Now, if I hit the lock button here, which you can see, I'll just zoom in. And if you hit this little link button, that's now going to link all these elements together. So when I move one, it's going to move them all around. So it's an easy way of actually linking and getting everything connected. And it's the way that I typically build out my scenes, by having them in a group, all linked together, so you can simply make it easy for yourself when you're moving things around. Now you can go one step further and also bring in the camera in there as well, and we can pop that underneath. And now if I move everything around, the whole elements move together, including the camera and so on. So it's great for when you're trying to do some placement and making your sort of main scene. And if I want to just expand that, I can. And obviously that's going to move everything around. So let me just move this down here and move that to there. And make it look reasonable. And we'll leave it like that for now. So we'll just link everything together. So I shall pause for a second and see if there are any questions in the comments. Let's do a queue. No questions at the moment. Either I'm explaining things or everybody's asleep. One of the two. Either way, let's continue. It's all good. Right. So camera overlays and things like that. What if you wanted now to add a guest to your show? At the end of the day, this is Ecamm Live. We like talking to people. We like having guests on our show. And there's a couple of things that you'll need to set up first in order for you to get a guest connected to your show. First off, you'll need to have the pro version of Ecamm, which includes the interview setup. Now, we'll need to set up interview first of all, because right now we don't have anything set up in this system. So let's go to Window, and let's go to Interview. And as you can see at the moment, my interview is disabled. And what that means is if I go to my camera switcher, you will see in all my sources, I don't have anything that looks like guest overlays or guest images. So you won't see the guest camera come up until you enable your interview mode. So I will enable my interview mode. And now you can see we have guests available as placeholders for your scenes. So I've got interview mode set up here. Now what you won't see, because I'm in live demo mode, so thank you Ecamm for keeping it all secret, is that this is the link that you will send to your guests when they come into the system. But right now, we're not even going to do that. We're actually going to set up a new scene with a guest placeholder ready for when your guests come in and you're going to interview them. You've got your scene ready. So the idea is let's build all these scenes up before you even start your production, and then you've got everything ready and you're good to go. So let's create a new scene. In fact, let me just name this one first of all, and I'll call it main demo scene, like that. And now let's create a new scene. It's blank again, as we said. And what I'm going to do now is add a camera. And if you noticed, Ecamm will keep the settings from your previous camera overlay. So if you remember, I had a border here. Let's just get a camera in there first so you can see what I'm talking about. So I had a border set at 0.4 and it was the color purple. It was a film, right? And it will basically keep the settings that we had before. So I'm just going to set up my camera here, like that. Yeah, as Paul said, a very good point. Name your scenes as you build them. You will thank yourself later. Yes, because if you don't, you'll say new scene 1, new scene 2. It becomes a right mess, particularly if you're going to be using it with Stream Deck, and then Stream Deck will see all the same names. So there you go. That is a very good point as well. Geeks on Tour, you can absolutely do that. You can drag a camera from the camera switcher into a new blank scene. And I'll show you that right now, because we're going to do that. Whoops, we're going to do that for our guest. So you can drag the guest and pop that straight in there. And you can see that now will become your guest overlay. So it doesn't look very nice at the moment, but when you're setting it all up, it will do. And you, again, with text and graphics, you can actually copy and paste them from one scene to another. So let's go to the main demo scene and let's get rid of the camera in here.
There are no notifications to
Thank you, Alexa, for that. She pops up all the time. It's either Alexa or Siri, and I have to be very quiet. So, okay, so let's get rid of this camera. We'll pop it here for a second. And then all these lower thirds, you can just basically grab them. You can copy them. And I think we can go into a new scene and paste them right there. So that is me set up. And I'm just going to create this as a host and guest. So that's our host and guest scene. Now we're going to duplicate the host and guest overlays here. I'm just going to copy and paste them. In fact, you could just, if you wanted to, click Option and drag them across. And that is a quicker way of doing it. So if you click the Option key and drag on the things that you want to move, you can do that. So I don't have a guest coming in, but I'm going to prep for a fictitious guest called Martini. She is the best pet, and she is looking for food. Don't worry, I haven't lost it. So let's change this graphic out. Now, I will also rename this. I'll just call it guest. And this lower third will be host. As Paul said, name everything, keep them nice and tidy. So let me just hit return on that. So this is the one that we, I've got them the wrong way around. No, I haven't. That's right. Guest. So this is the one I'm going to change. So I'm going to actually change this graphic, and it's a pain if I want to just drag it in and so on, but with Ecamm, it isn't. You can just click on the gear menu and you can do replace asset, and that's going to replace this overlay asset with a new one that you select. So let's just replace asset. I'm going to go into images. I'm going to bring in Martini guest circle. And look at that. It's changed it to my cat because that is Martini. It wasn't a made-up person. And I also now want to bring a placeholder. And you can do this, and Doc does this quite a lot. So instead of having just a blank scene, a blank overlay with just the guest one showing, it would be nice to put a picture of the guest in case we lose connectivity with them halfway through or something like that. Yes, my guest is absolutely, she is coming in live in a moment in guest mode. No, she's not. She would be a pain. I've got two of them and they're crazy. So let's bring in an overlay into our guest. Let's do images and let's do the Martini placeholder. So I'm just going to pop this, drag it straight in like that. And there she is. And I'm going to resize this. Now, beauty of Ecamm is let's just basically resize it. And I'm just going to crop. And you can crop images in Ecamm by holding down the, let me just get rid of this, the Option key. And hopefully you can see these keystrokes that are coming up as well. They're hopefully helping you, show you which keys I'm using. So let's just do Option and we'll just crop that down. And we'll just crop this one a little bit. I'm just using my mouse to zoom out. Get that there, like that. And then we'll make it rounded corners so it fits nicely. We can just make those so it fits like that. All right. And as you can see, this image is sitting above, so we want this to sit below like that. And then there you have it. So we've got me and my cat as a potential guest that's coming onto the show in guest mode. So that's a quick and easy way of just bringing in these overlays specifically for images so you can show your guest off there, and in case anything goes wrong when you bring your guest on, and if they disappear for whatever reason, then you still have a little placeholder with a photograph in there. All right, let me just go back to the main camera. Let me see if there's any questions. I'm going to do a Q. Colon. No questions today so far. Well, this is good. All right. Well, thank you for being great people so far. All right. The next thing I wanted to show you is, let's have a look. Let's do some animated overlays, videos, and things like that. So we want to now bring in some other elements to our production. So we've got a main camera. We've got the main sort of demo scene here. Oh, where's my lower third? Let's bring that camera down like that. Oh, the camera. Lower third at the top. There you go. Host and guest. Now the background isn't very good, so let's bring in a background image for now. And we will do that. I've got a couple of backgrounds here. Some crazy ones from Midjourney, background 1, background 2. Let's pick this one and pop that right in. We're just going to drag that in. Of course, it's at the top, so let's drag it all the way down to the bottom. And that is now our background. It's lovely and messy, but I do like a little bit of Midjourney to get everything working. And then I'm going to lock this scene up like that. So now I can't mess around with it and break it. So let's create a new scene, and I'm going to create an overlay now with either a video that you want to show off or a screen share. We'll do a video first, then we'll do a screen share. So let's do a new scene and let's do this video share. All right, let's pop in a camera. Again, let's make it camera A. And let's make it a circle this time. Let's move it down there. Now, when I'm sharing screens and overlays and things like that, presentations, then it's always good to put the camera overlay to either the left or the right-hand side of the screen, depending on what screen you're looking at. So my monitor is to my left. So as you can see, when I'm looking at something here on the screen, it looks like I'm looking at it over here, which is right. If I was to move it over there, and then I look at the screen, it doesn't look right unless my monitor is over here, and so on. So you get the picture. It's just about making things look a bit better for when you're presenting and making sure your audience is still a bit sort of, immersed in what you're actually showing. So let's do a background again. We'll make this full size. So it covers the screen. Bring the rectangle at the bottom, and we should lock that up. Now we're going to bring in a video. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this, and there's a couple of things that sort of get people stuck. So there are a couple of different ways of bringing in videos. So let me show you one of the ways first. Let me just get this up here. I'm just going to grab, a YouTube video of Katie and Doc. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can download the YouTube video from your favorite YouTube download software, and then you can pop this into Ecamm. But if you put a video straight into Ecamm, it's going to basically take over the entire screen, and you won't be able to change the size of it or anything like that. And that's because Ecamm's treating that video as a video asset. And with video assets, it's basically going to play it at full screen. And I'll show you that in a second. So we're going to do it a couple of different ways. The first way is that we could basically take because it's a YouTube video, we could take a web widget, which is this one down here. And this was introduced quite a few versions ago now. It's a really great way of bringing in a web browser into your production. So let's do new widget. And as you can see, it's going to ask me for a display name. So I'll say it's just called a video. Like that. I'll get to your question in a second, Eileen. So let's just put this in here, like that. I'll make it 1920 by 1080. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to resize this anyway. And the frame rate, I tend to leave it at 30, especially for video and so on. So I'm going to add this widget overlay. And this is basically the video now of Katie and Doc at Podfest. And I'll add that. Give it a couple of seconds. You always have to answer something with. Okay. Now, hopefully the music's playing in the background. I'm just going to turn the music down a little bit. And I'm going to make this video now full screen. Now, I've just paused the video for a second. So this web widget is really cool because it does two things. One, it allows you to bring in any sort of web-based element into your production, and think of it as a browser within a browser, right? So this is like a HTML browser that is now an overlay within your production. The little switch here does one of two things. If you move it to the left, it allows me to manipulate the web widget within my production. So I've moved it to the left. I'm going to resize it, bring it over here, drag it in, and then I'm going to center it best I can to there. You can make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want. So when I then move this little switch over to the right, it acts now as a browser. What I mean by that is if you had multiple pages that you wanted to go through on a web page, then you've got the forward and back elements and you've got the refresh. So if I hit refresh, it's going to refresh the page again, obviously taking away from full screen. And it allows me to manipulate this as it would do on a web page. So I'm going to make this full screen here by clicking that. Zoom back out. And now we've got Katie and Doc as a video that's coming from YouTube, which is great. So that's one way of doing a video element. Let me just remove this. Okay, so the next way of doing it is creating and converting your video to a WebM format. And that is a format that allows you to have both audio and video with that. So if you drag a video, a standard video, which is the one here, which I just downloaded, which is the flow. And if you bring this into your overlays and drag it across, it's going to ask you a question. It's going to say that, do you want to add this as an animated overlay, or do you want to play it full screen with audio? If it's an animated overlay, it comes in just like before, but it doesn't have any sound. So you can't hear Katie and Doc right now, but you can still make it full screen and things like that. So if you were just talking to a particular video that you didn't care about the sound, then this is a quick and easy way of just bringing in a standard MP4 or an MOV file into your production. If you was to bring it in like this and then do full screen, it's going to play it full screen with audio. Just move the camera. Just mute that for a second. Okay, so we don't actually want that. So what we actually want, let me just remove this a sec. We can actually create a WebM format from a video, and there are converters out there that can do that. One I use is called Shutter Encoder, and it's a free download tool. You just pop in your video and you have a configuration to set it. And thank you, Paul. There is a video that Doc produced, and that's Shutter Encoder, and Doc also did a tutorial on this somewhere as well, and there it is. So thank you, Paul, for pointing those out. So yeah, you can actually convert that, and when you convert it to a WebM, it does one of two things. One, it's a HTML format, so effectively it just comes in as an overlay, and now I can manipulate it, as you can see here, just as I did before. Okay, so there's lots of easy ways of bringing in videos and overlays and so on to your production. I tend to do the WebM format because it's easier if I want to share something, but obviously if it's just a YouTube video or something that you want to highlight, then the web widget is the way to go. All right, so I know Leanne had a question. Can you go over the text shape, please? Okay, when you say the text shape, you're talking about the text overlay specifically. You mean the different types or just how you set that up? So let me grab a text overlay then. So there's two types of text overlay in the overlays panel. You can see them down here. One is the new text overlay, and then the other one is just a standard. Oh, let me just move that the way. Sorry. So this one is the dynamic text overlay, and then this one is just the text box. So let me, if you're asking what the differences are, if I'll just bring one up here a second. So the text box shrink to fit means that whatever size you set the text box, the text was going to shrink within that. The text box is never going any bigger. So if you've got a lot of text that you want to put in your scene, then that might be the best way to go. So I guess I need to grab some text from somewhere. Let me just grab this YouTube thing here. Let's grab the description maybe. 1 second. Let's grab all that. All right, that's quite a bit of text, but that'll do. I'll pop that in there like that. Okay. Wow, that didn't work very well. That did not work very well at all. What's going on there? All right. Let me just hide that comment. I don't know what happened with that, but let me just do that again. Let me just get some normal text. So this is some text that I can share with you all now. Texting live, love it. Okay, so if I just add this to shrink to fit. So you see what's happening. The text is basically keeping the same size, but the box remains the same. So if I move the box around, the text is going to remain the same size. And if I change the text size itself, that box is never going to get any bigger. It's not allowed to get any bigger. So this is a real nice way of, if you know that you want to constrain your text within a certain area within your scene, then selecting the text widget and setting it to shrink to fit means that the text is going to shrink and the box remains the same size. If you did this now as dynamic, if you make the text bigger, the box is going to get bigger. And that is not what you want, potentially, if you are trying to make something fit in your production, right? So the main thing is, depending on what you want to have as a text overlay. So as you can see, I'm changing the text size and the box is shrinking. So if you want to maintain and have a persistent look and feel with your text overlay, then change the text box to shrink to fit, set the box to whatever size you want, and that text box is not going to change within your scene, depending on how your text is set up. I hope that answers your question, if that was the question in the first place. I hope I got that right, but let me know if you need any further clarification. But just keep this in mind. If you want to have a fixed size box with text in your overlay, then select the option text box, shrink, and so on. All right. Let me have a look. So let's say we want to now go back to our video share, and we don't want a video share. We want to make this a screen share. All right, so there's lots of ways that you can share stuff within Ecamm. I've mentioned the web widget, which is great for sharing web-based presentations. You can bring anything in there. You could bring, Canva. You could bring anything that is web-based into that. But if you wanted to share a portion of your screen, then we can do that with the screen share overlay. So let me just get rid of some of this a second. I want to share my Google screen, which I've just hidden at the moment. So let's bring up the screen share overlay. Let's do that. Now by default, it's going to pick, I've got 3 monitors here. So if you click the little pen tool, it's going to tell you which display it's going to share. We've got the primary display in my case, and the secondary one. So the secondary one is where you're seeing the Ecamm live demo production right now, which is there. And as I said, it remembers the border width and the corner radius and all that kind of good stuff. So it also defaults to the shape, defaults to the aspect ratio of your monitor. So I'm going to change mine to my second display. So now, if I just make this a little bit bigger, you can see that what we're seeing is basically this screen. It's not going to show you the Ecamm overlays because they're hidden from the screen share. There is a way that you can share the Ecamm stuff as well if you want. But for today, I'm just going to share the Chrome browser. And you can do that by hitting the pen tool. And you can basically say what you want to show. So these are the things that are running. Now you can show the various elements of Ecamm live. You can show the comments and reactions, for example. So I could put those in there. But I actually want to share instead my Chrome browser, wherever it's gone. I did hide it, didn't I? Let me just bring up Chrome. Bring it there. Okay, it's not going to show things that are hidden. Where has Chrome gone? Am I going to see my Chrome browser? Let me just come out of that and go back. There it is. Okay, so there's my Chrome browser. And again, using the Option key, I can just crop this in to get rid of all the headers and just make it look nice. Like that. And then I will just make it as big as possible. Now you could share this, of course, as a web widget, but again, it's personal choice. Gonna make me a bit smaller, put me just down there, because you want the focus to be this, like that, and then the screen share will go below the camera, and I'll just put the camera there instead. So now I can navigate through Chrome, and here I am showing you the new merch, which is wonderful from Ecamm. Look at all this great stuff. I have to confess that I have ordered a couple of things, and they will be coming soon. And it's great now with the merch shop that I'm living in Portugal, and it's international shipping without customs, because they actually get distributed, I think, from local distribution points within your respective country. So no more import duties you have to pay for stuff like that, especially when it comes from the US, because that was a big deal. So here's the new merch shop, and I'm just, as I said, showing you or sharing my Chrome browser as an overlay, and I've just made it disappear. There you go. Now here's the thing. If you move this around, it's obviously going to move it in Ecamm, because Ecamm is just doing a screen grab of whatever you're sharing within your desktop. So obviously if I hide it around, then obviously that's not going to stay. So it's always good practice to either share this on a different monitor in full screen if you're actually sharing an element within your desktop, or if it's just a web browser, then share it as a web widget. So if I moved it to another monitor, for example, I'm just going to move it over there. I'm going to make that full screen over there. Okay. So now I would have to share my, just delete that a sec. I'm going to share my other monitor now, which is defaulted to. So now it's the primary display and so on. So now I'm sharing this on my other monitor. And if I just move it around on my other monitor, you can see it's just moving there. So again, it depends on what you want to share. And you can share pretty much anything within Ecamm based on the screen share overlay. You can share a part of your screen. As I said, you can just crop this out and do whatever you want, and then resize it, and so on. So lots of different ways of sharing stuff within your production. Let me just pause. Let me hit Q. Okay. Okay. No other questions at the moment, which is great. So when you're setting up your production, you may also obviously want to communicate and have a chat with your audience and show their comments and reactions, as I'm doing right now. So I just bring that in. No worries, Gretchen. I always forget the option key as well. So the comments and reactions are just an overlay, and you can see that they actually pop up here. Okay, so any new comments that come in. But if you're just setting up your production from scratch and you don't actually have any comments coming in, then how do you know where they're going to be placed when real comments come in? So Ecamm has got you covered. If you go to overlays, there is an element here that you can add, which is called Add Placeholder Comment Overlay. So we click on this, and this is going to set up a default placeholder for your comments, and you can put that wherever you want. So I'm going to change the layout of this slightly to show you that it actually works. So I'm in the main cam right now, and it disappears, and that's a preference setting. So let's just change that preference setting real quick. Go into preferences and into general, and down here at the bottom, we want to automatically hide comments after 15 seconds. No, we want to switch that off for now. We don't want that. And then we will bring in the viewer name placeholder again. And now we'll just change it. Let's have a mess around with it. Let's click the pen tool. and we'll edit the text. And I'm going to change this text to, I don't know, something else. Let's do that. And then change this to, what fonts do I like? La 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 la. I like Electrolyze. And let's make that smaller, like that. And let's change the viewer's name to be a different color. Let's make it blue. And we'll keep the text white. And then we'll edit the background, maybe. And we'll make the opacity a little bit less with that. So I'm just changing the background color with the opacity slider here. Save that off. And now the viewer's name is different. Let's make that a little bit bigger as well if you wanted to have it a bit larger. I'll change the text margin as well, like that. And I think I will make that text a little bit bigger. Like that. Why not? You can also change the size of the person's icon, like this. So I'll make it super big, and then I'll hide it, and then I'll bring in a comment. Let's bring the last one in from Gretchen. And as you can see now, it's changed and honored the style of the comment that comes in. So a nice and easy way of making sure that when your comments come in, you can change them how you want, have them set and ready to go. And then when your actual comments come in, they look how you've set them. I've seen a lot of people as well, do their comments as a main screen. I do this as well. So if I just add a camera real quick, change that camera to this. I feel like my microphone's cutting out a little bit. I don't know why. Okay. I'll change that to custom. Okay. And we can just bring our comments in a different way. So let's just add a overlay. And we'll add a placeover comment overlay here, like that. Some people like having their comments large. I do, actually. I mean, it gives focus to the comment, and then you can make sure it looks good. Let's make this scene comments. And then we'll change the text and make it much bigger. Edit the text. We'll make it a little bit bigger like that, and the viewer name. And we'll change that font to something else. Okay. So that's another placeholder. We can also add a little background to that if we wanted. Not that big. Just shrink that background down. And then we can put a nice little drop shadow on this. I think it's already got a drop shadow. You can add a little drop shadow on there, which looks nice, I think. You can change the blur and things like that. That's cool. And then we'll just hide that. And then bring in this last comment, which is absolutely right. There are so many different ways to do the same things. Oh, there are so many. Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. There's just no end. There's no end to the possibilities of setting up your scenes and so on. And that's what I like about Ecamm, how each of your Ecamm productions can be unique and tailored to your exact brand, the look and feel of your business, how you want it to look. So yes, indeed, it is very good. Right, let me just move those comments down like this. Another thing that you can do, if we go back to the main cam, is from an organization perspective, it's always good to have your sort of scenes set up in groups. So you can have these little folders and groups here as well. So we can create sort of, like a guest folder. So anything to do with guests, you could just pop into this folder here, and screen shares, let's say, things like that. And then you can obviously lock those. So from an organization perspective, it's nice to have something structured, particularly if you have either one show that has multiple scenes and every week you're actually adding new overlays and new scenes. You may not want to delete the ones you've already created and want to save them. So you could actually just create an archive and put them all in this particular folder. But there's another couple of organizational tips and tricks that I'll talk about in a second as well. One of the things I did want to mention is around the camera effects. So unlike other products like Zoom and other web conferencing tools, Zoom is great obviously for mass web conferences, but if you're bringing in guests and you want to sort of manipulate where they are on the screen, it's really hard to do that in these other programs because they don't give you the flexibility of changing the look and feel, some of the coloring and the placement of the people within your environment. So, for example, if I go back to guests here, let's do this guest scene, let's do host and guest. So within Ecamm, you have the ability to change how the camera looks for you and your guest, and that's done within the camera effects window, which is down here. So the camera effects window is really cool. Let me just bring up my camera for a second here. So you can do this for your own camera and for any guest that comes in. You can see here that you can select any guest that you have, and currently you're allowed up to 10 guests within your Ecamm production. You can actually change these use these camera effects to sort of change and manipulate the look and feel of yourself and your guest. So there's a few things I just wanted to show you real quick. One of the useful ones is the zoom and pan. So if your guest isn't sort of, let me just unlock this. By the way, you cannot change things from a camera perspective if your scene is locked, which is a good thing, but also you may forget that sometimes. So unlock before you actually start to edit anything. So within here, let's do zoom and pan, and you can zoom and pan your guest or me or whatever around to make sure that they're placed centrally, because sometimes, you know, people will come in that are the camera set up right, and if you're cropping and making them fit within your production, they may not be centered correctly. So you can use the zoom and pan to just simply get them placed in the right place within your production. You can also change the brightness and temperature, you know, you can go black and white and crazy. So this is a good way of sort of making you and your guest, when you're side by side, to look natural, to look almost like you're in the same environment, and you can change a few things around, you know. So there's lots of stuff you can do within Ecamm that you can't do in lots of other programs. And it is frustrating if you're using Zoom and these people aren't placed in the right place and stuff like that. But anyway, all that said, you can do that. And once you've set up your camera, if you're setting up camera A, for example, in here, say I want to just sort of, not tint that much, just change the tint a little bit, maybe change the saturation on me, maybe change the look that I've got here. Once you've made all those changes, I'm slightly zoomed in now and panned in across, you can save your settings to all the scenes. So if I've got camera A applied across all my various scenes, then when you apply to all scenes, everything will change where you've got your camera A referenced in your scenes, which is really good, because obviously if you had separate cameras and so on, then you'd have to go into each camera, you'd have to change them separately with all these different settings, and you don't have to do that if you do the apply to all scenes. So that's why it's important to, when you're mapping your respective cameras to letters, it's a much easier way then to say, camera A is in all these scenes, it's my main camera. I can make some changes to that, zoom and pan, colors, whatever I want. Then I can apply that to all scenes. All right. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. Let's go back to the main camera and just have a look through here. If there are any questions, comments. You're welcome, Gretchen. I don't know what that was I fixed for you or solved, but that's no problem. Hey, David. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some organization real quick. So Ecamm has the ability to export and import profiles. Now, a profile is effectively what you're seeing here. It's the entire grouping of your scenes and all your overlays and all your music and everything that you bring in. And you can basically import and export profiles and give them to your colleagues, somebody else who's working on the profile, somebody who's doing remote production, for example. They could use the profile that you've exported. And from a housekeeping perspective, please don't look at all mine, but you can see that there's a ton of profiles I've got here, and you can simply export the current profile. I'm just going to pop that straight into desktop, export, and it's just going to export on the desktop on the other screen, all the way over there. Okay, not to worry. It is actually on the other. Let's get rid of that. Where's my Ecamm profile? Trust me, it's exported it. It's put it on the other monitor. I can't grab it. I feel like I'm tied to this chair by the headset. But once you've exported that, then you can obviously give it to somebody who's doing remote production, as I said, or other things. And to import a profile, you just click on and double click the profile, and it will import it straight into your Ecamm production. Just keep in mind, if you are using different versions of Ecamm, it's important that the actual version of Ecamm that you've exported the profile from is the same that the person's importing, and so on. But anyway, it's all good stuff. Another thing that you can do, which is quite cool within your scenes, is have something called the automatic group. And the automatic group will allow you to switch between scenes automatically without you doing anything. So I'll show you how that works. So we'll set up a new automatic group. We'll click on this. I'm going to put this all the way down at the bottom. And I'm going to call it AutoCam. Okay. What this will do is it will switch between scenes that I've already created. So you need to create your scenes first, and then if you want them to be automatically switched, you can do that by putting them into this group. So let's do that real quick. So I'm going to grab the main cam scene. I'm going to duplicate it. And to duplicate it, super simple, hit this little duplicate icon here. Click on that. And then my main camera is duplicated. So I just do main cam auto. And then I'm going to drag that into the auto cam. And then the desk cam, I'm just going to duplicate that. Duplicate. Oops, I copied the wrong thing. You've got to be on the right one first to do that. So let's just do desk cam. And do desk cam. Auto. Hit return. Okay. So it's doing nothing right now. It's just enabling you to show the scenes as you would do normally. So let's go into this gear menu here and show you what options you've got. So you've got a couple of options. You can say advance to the next scene, or if you've got 20 scenes in this auto cam folder that I've got now, it will just do random. So at the moment I've only got 2, so it's just going to cycle between the 2 scenes that I've got. Do you want the interval to be fixed? So a fixed period of time, it'll wait and then it'll go to the next scene, or do you want it to be random? Let's do random. Let's do quick. Let's do it between 3 seconds and 8 seconds. And then do you want to have a transition between those scenes? So the transition within Ecamm, there's a default transition, which is in your preferences, which is here. And it's under, what is it under? Stream? No, it's under video, sorry. So under video, your default transition is cross dissolve, but you've got all these other ones. I just like to do the slow cross dissolve as my default transition. But the AutoCam setup that we've got here is going to override the default one in the preferences. So let's do a wipe. I don't know. Let's do that. So what happens now? I'll answer your question in a second. Ben, the solar guy. I know exactly what you mean. That's the perspective mode. I'll show you that real quick. All right, so once we've done that, if we hit the autocam, we wait. You hit play, and then the autocam is going to automatically switch between the two scenes with a swipe. Oh, it could get so crazy. You could go mental. You could have multiple scenes. But imagine if you're doing a, production where you've got multiple cameras. Let's just stop that for a second. I'll give you another example. So it's a bit quick. Let's be between 6 seconds and 10. Or it'll go crazy. And then we'll not do swipe. We'll do a, whoops, where's my mouse? We'll do a slow cross dissolve instead. What we'll do is we'll just manipulate this camera here. So this is my main camera. I'm just going to duplicate this scene again. I'm just going to call it zoom in. You'll see why in a second. So I've got my main cam, I've got my zoom in. Say you want to fool people to thinking that you've got 300 cameras in your setup and you want to sort of do a punch in on this particular camera as it looks like you've got another camera or another scene. So I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to Window, Camera Effects. So for this particular camera in this particular scene, I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit like that. Not that you want to see any more of this on a Friday, but I'm sorry for the close-up. Ooh, easy. I'm not going to apply to all scenes. I'm just going to apply it to this scene. So you'll see where I'm going in a second. So first one is that. Second one is zoom in. And then we've got the desk cam. So if you now play autocam, it's if you've got two cameras, what I've done is created one camera with a punch in. So created two scenes out of one camera. So you get a sort of close up and a zoom in, if you like. And the other one obviously is the desk camera. So the autocam is, or the auto scene is really cool for doing things like this. If you've got a talking head video production that you're doing and you want to show maybe some behind the scenes whilst you're talking, you don't have to manipulate it with the Stream Deck. You don't have to do it with any keystrokes or any shortcut keys. You can just click one button and let the autocam do its thing. So I use it sometimes. I think it's quite useful, particularly for behind the scenes stuff, things like that. You can also switch obviously between any scene that you want. If you want to create a scene which is a screen share or an overlay or a web widget or anything like that, you can certainly do that as well. Right, so we had a question, and the question was, how do you create the feature of the angle window now they've added that feature? So I think you're talking about perspective, and I am using the Ecamm live demo. So let's create a new scene. Oh, right. Explain the comment window, set the comment window and the Stream Deck. Okay. I think I just already did the comment window, but Stream Deck, if I get time, I'll have a quick look. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's do the new scene first. So hit the new scene. Let's call this perspective, if I can spell on a Friday night. Okay, so let's do perspective. Let's add a camera. Like this. Where's my camera gone? Brain's not working. Okay, like this. Let's put a background in real quick. Like that. Okay, so I think what you're talking about is perspective. So there is a new option here called perspective, and that was added in the latest beta, and anybody can sign up to be a beta tester. I'm sure Paul's got a link that he can show you in a second. But perspective is simply that. So you can just change that like this to give a little bit of perspective. It's cool when you've got two people side by side. The same applies with the border width and the radius and stuff like that. So you can create that. Thanks, Paul. Paul has put up the link there for the beta. Oops. Sorry, I truncated the message there, Paul. There you go. All right. So this is perspective. And if you've got a couple of guests side by side, it looks really good. Let's just do option. Drag that across there. use the magic of Ecamm's snap to grid, and then we'll just do this, and we'll change the perspective the other way. So that was 50 that way, and we'll do 50 the other way. Like that. Oh, two of me. Nobody wants that. Let's just do camera G. So there you go. So if you get beta access, absolutely. So if you get beta access, you can basically do this and have perspectives. And the perspectives apply to not just camera overlays, they apply to everything, I think. I'm saying that now. I might be wrong. So let me just double check. Let me just create a quick, whatever that is. Can I just create a perspective? You can, look, you can make perspective out of anything. Ken and Glenn, they are the dream team. They do everything. You ask for it, you get it. Simple as that. Well, not always, but most of the time. All right. No problem, Valerie. Thank you for joining as well. You can always catch it on the flippity flop, on the replay, whatever they call it. Absolutely. Okay, so let me just see what's the questions. Ooh, well, so I can show you the Stream Deck, but that's a whole nother video altogether. But it depends on what you want to know about the Stream Deck. I mean, there are many configurable options within the Stream Deck, especially for Ecamm. The most basic one is setting a scene. So I'll show you one setup real quick. If I go to my Stream Deck, I'm hoping you can see this. You might not be able to. It's live demo mode, so I don't think you'll see my Stream Deck setup, will you? Okay, let me just... I'll have to share a screen, won't I? I actually don't know whether you can see this or not. Can somebody just tell me in the comments whether you can see the Stream Deck configuration? Because I'm not sure if you can, unless I do a screen share. Oh, you see it. All right. Thank you, George. Fantastic. Of course, it shows the entire screen. All right. So this is Stream Deck. Let me just delete these buttons. This is actually Stream Deck Pedal. Ecamm Live, when you install it, comes with your Stream Deck overlays. Your Stream Deck plugin. Got overlays on the brain. Your Stream Deck plugin, and the Stream Deck plugin for Ecamm Live has a ton of things that you can do. Quite simply, your Stream Deck, you can have a Stream Deck XL, tons of buttons. I've got the Stream Deck Mini, which is 15, and the Stream Deck Plus and the pedal. Yes, Stream Deck Crazy. But for me, I tend to use the Stream Deck pedal for controlling my scenes. Yeah, Geeks on Tour, there you go. Yeah, Stream Deck XL and Mini pedal. You can go crazy. Anyway, let's quickly do this. So within the pedal, I'm just going to click and drag next scene and previous scene, and it's that simple. Oh, you have 6 buttons on your Stream Deck. Okay, that's cool. You can also use the free iPad app. So the iPad and the iPhone app. The iPhone, without signing up, allows you to have, I think, 6 buttons on the iPhone. So if you get the Elgato app from the App Store, it will allow you to use 6 buttons for free. And it connects directly via Wi-Fi to your Stream Deck software, and it's super easy to do that. Okay, so going back to Stream Deck real quick. So here's my Stream Deck pedal, and I've got previous scene and next scene. So if I want to go to the next scene, I'm just going to use no hands. I'm just going to use the pedal. That's it. So that's a simple case. I mean, I've got lots of different things set up on my Stream Decks for things like multi-actions and so on. And Alec Johnson has done an amazing set of videos for Stream Deck. Introduction to Stream Deck. I think he's got a masterclass on Stream Deck and things like that. So check out his videos because he is the man. He is Mr. Production. He is Mr. Automation. I try and learn a few things from Alec and employ them into my own setup. But yeah, he's the man. So yeah. And let's see what you've got there, Paul. You have 2 Stream Deck XLs, a Stream Deck Plus, a pedal plus the app. Wow. I know you have a lot of things to take care of over multiple shows. Just as an interest, Paul, do you use, I guess you use profiles, right? And things within, you must use profiles within Stream Deck in order to keep tabs on all the shows that you have to moderate. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, wonderful. All right, let me just take a look. Is there anything else? In the questions, you're welcome, Ben. Hope that sort of helps you out a little bit. As I said, check out Alex's site, Take One Tech. And he also has done some Stream Deck stuff as well. Oh, and you do pages. Ah, right. Yeah, that's the rule, to do pages, profiles, and everything else. Let me take a look. If there is anything else on here, right. I think I've gone through everything that I was going to try and show you today. Oh, comments. When you're talking about these comments that we're bringing in right now, Ben. Okay, let's go and do that one more time. So here we have our scene. And so for comments, I tend to do the comment overlay placeholder first. So if you go to overlays, go to add a placeholder comment overlay. This is going to be the default one that we set up first with your colors, with your fonts, with your size, with your placement. And then any subsequent comment that comes in live, as we're doing right now, will honor the look and feel of this placeholder. So let's just change that real quick. Let's change this viewer name. We'll just give it some crazy text. And then we'll change this font. Wow, that was a big font. Okay, let's just change it to, I don't know. Oh yeah, grape nuts. Don't ask. Okay, so now you can see that that is slightly different. Oops. Slide that around. Like that. So now we've changed the look and feel. I'm going to hide that. And then, oops, I clicked it twice. If I bring in Paul's comment, as you can see, it's basically changed and honored the text that we've just changed. Grape nuts at the bottom, and I think it's called bangers at the top. That's typically how you wouldn't have it laid out, but hopefully, Ben, that helps you out. It's really easy to set up. And as you saw, maybe in the other one, we did comments and they were set up slightly different. If I just hide that one, bring yours up, boom. There's lots of different ways of doing comments. Catches me out a little bit as well. Geeks on Tour, use 2 profiles of the shows. Main shows, 2 minor casts and a couple of Zoom meeting specific every day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Ecamm is you're right, Ben. Ecamm is getting easy. There's lots of things in it. It's very configurable, but it's as configurable as you want it to be. You can make it as complex or as simple as you want, and it depends on your production, what you're going for, and so on. Let me see. There's a last couple of things. For people that do podcasts and who want to have their shows and stuff recorded, let's just go to preferences a second and just show you just a couple of the settings. So when it comes to recording, you've got options within Ecamm to record various things. And this is super useful if you've got guests coming into your production that you want to do some post-production with later, i.e. you might want to clean up their audio, you might want to edit some stuff out, put it into script, I don't know. There's lots of things that you can do, but you might want to treat their audio track separately from the main mix. So within Ecamm, you've got the option to do isolated video and also record various audio tracks as well. So the isolated video is great because you can record yourself as the main camera, and as you can see here, up to 3 cameras and your interview guests. And each guest that comes in, up to 10, I could get crazy, basically gets recorded separately. So once you've finished your live stream as we're doing today, then if I had these enabled, you can basically set these up. So each track then gets recorded separately, separate cameras, separate guests, and so on. And then you can put them into Final Cut, you can put them into Descript, you can put them into the software editing tool of choice, and you can sort of manipulate them and do work on them for post-production. And a lot of podcasters use them. Katie and Doc obviously have the Flow podcast, and they use the isolated recording as well. And also, because Doc has Ecamm, it's always good practice if you've got Ecamm on both sides, then record together when you're doing your podcast. So you've both got a local recording of your audio in case anything goes wrong and so on. But yeah, isolated audio is super cool, and it's a great feature, especially if you're doing some post-production as well. Yes, I do. I use Descript for various things, mainly for transcribing and sort of for easy editing, because it's basically like going through a Word document and cutting things out that way. But yes, I do use Descript. Can we put in a request for captions? Well, it depends. I mean, there are options for doing captions. Final Cut has a third-party plugin called Captionator. If you go to my YouTube channel, I did do a tutorial on that. Descript has got captions as well built in. So I think if you take it out of Ecamm and put it into a tool for doing sort of post-production, I think that's probably where it's best suited. But I don't know, maybe Ken and Glenn are thinking about that in the future, but you have options. Also, Opus Clips is one that a lot of people use for repurposing their for their videos as well and things like that. So yeah, there's lots of things that you can do. Well, this has gone on a lot longer than I anticipated, which is fantastic. I do appreciate all the comments and questions. Let me take one last look to see if there are anything else. I don't think there is. All right. Well, I do appreciate you turning up today. Thank you so much for joining. It's really appreciated. It's a bit humbling to be on this show and stepping into the big shoes of Doc, but he is back next week, as I said. Oh, and maybe he's not back next week. It may be Paul and Mr. Camera Junkie who's taking over next week. So I'll be sitting back and relaxing then, if that's the case. Oh, hang on. A last minute question coming in. Let's see if it's not too late. I was playing around with the add placeholder comment overlay, but I wasn't sure if it needs to be placed on each scene or all scenes. It should be well, it depends. If you want the same look and feel across all your production, then you can just pop it here. So where we've got this comment placeholder, instead of, it's right now showing all scenes, but if you want to manipulate how it looks on a per scene basis, then you can basically put it in to each scene. So right now it's in showing all scenes, but I would just basically drop it down here and pop it in showing current scene. So it would only, this look and feel would only be in this particular scene. So hopefully that answers your question, but it's personal choice. If you want them all to look the same, boom. But as you saw here, I changed mine as well and put it in the other scene. And Paul, yes, oops, thank you for sharing that. So that's Opus.pro, which is the one where we do all the Captionator stuff in there. And yes, Paul, you and Luis will be on the show next week. So Doc is not going to be around for 2 weeks. So there you go. You get another flavor of people supporting this show. And yeah, check out the Ecamm perks page for discounts, because you can get some discounts, I think, for Descript and other services there. It's a fabulous, fabulous place. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If there are no other questions, oh, thank you, George. It's really kind of you. And yeah, thanks a lot for your time. I'm going to sign off now with my end screen, and I'm going to use my Stream Deck to see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll still be broadcasting live this time tomorrow. All right? 24-hour stream. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Hopefully, I'll see you again. Take it easy.